Well, hey there, idiots. Welcome back to Observe. Today's video will be the first in a short series that I will be doing here on the channel centered around the dark triad of personality. That would be narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. In the series, we'll be breaking down each of these personality disorders and traits to help add definitive clarity and to provide some of the tools necessary for when you have interactions with the dark triad traits in your day-to-day life, work life, and even relationships. More on that in just a second. Let's go ahead and roll that intro first. In a world that is becoming ever more connected via an internet that seems to be littered with people creating posts that only serve to boost their own ego, the term narcissism has begun to run rather rampant. Any egotistical act that a person performs quickly merits a flurry of comments from people confidently labeling them as a narcissist. While these responses are often made out of goodwill, it's this black and white approach to labeling that has inadvertently actually muddied the waters around the diagnosis. First, the ability to simply define narcissism is rather straightforward. The National Institutes of Health, or NIH, does it pretty well in saying Narcissistic Personality Disorder, or NPD, is a psychological disorder characterized by a persistent pattern of grandiosity, fantasies of unlimited power or importance, and the need for admiration or special treatment. Core cognitive, affective, interpersonal, and behavioral features include impulsivity, volatility, attention-seeking, low self-esteem, and unstable interpersonal relationships that result in a pervasive pattern of interpersonal difficulties, occupational problems, and significant psychosocial distress. The NIH goes on to state that the disorder is not nearly as pervasive as the population's frivolous circulating of the term suggests, with only about 0.5% to 6.2% of the general population realistically falling on the pathological narcissism spectrum. In fact, many narcissistic traits are considered healthy and important to a person's psychology while in moderation. Psychologist Craig Malkin, a lecturer at Harvard Medical School and the author of Rethinking Narcissism, says that a way to think of healthy levels of narcissistic traits is our capacity to see ourselves and others through rose-colored glasses. It can help us feel a little bit better about ourselves on occasion and gives us confidence in our day-to-day lives. Part of what makes NPD so dangerous today has been the oversimplification and caricatured representation of the disorder across the media. Thanks to movies and TV shows, books, and more, what comes to mind for most people when thinking about a narcissist is their grandiose nature specifically. Images of people like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast fly to the forefront of the mind, a verbose, constantly bragging individual who is overtly egotistical and unwilling to see their own flaws in and of themselves. While grandiosity can in fact be a common manifestation of NPD, there are multiple other more subtle behaviors and patterns that can also be indicative of NPD. First, according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 5th version, or as everybody else likes to call it, the DSM-5, NPD activity navigates through cluster B personality disorders. Disorders within this cluster are commonly attributed with dramatic, emotional, or erratic features, including antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and then last but not least, narcissistic personality disorder. Clinical features include at least 5 of the following. Number 1 is having a grandiose sense of self-importance, such as exaggerated achievements and talents, expecting to be recognized as superior without any commiserate achievements to go along with. Another possible indicator is preoccupation with fantasies of success, power, beauty, and idealization. Yet another one is belief in being special and that they can only be understood by or associated with other high-status people or institutions. Yet another one is demanding excessive admiration, also an overt sense of entitlement, exploitation behaviors, lack of empathy, envy towards others or belief that others are envious towards them, and lastly, arrogant and haughty behaviors and attitudes. While each of these characteristics can and often do show up within the parameters of what is considered to be healthy personalities, their pathological existence helps distinguish sporadic egotistical behaviors from the beliefs and systematic functioning of a person with NPD. Granted, while all of the clinical definitions in the world can add some clarity as to what defines narcissism, being able to spot the patterns in real life is oftentimes arguably just as important to the average individual. With that in mind, over the next portion of this video here, I'll be covering the behavioral patterns and tactics produced by the narcissist while at work, in the social settings, and especially in relationships. So the first part of this is narcissism in the workplace and social setting. Narcissists in the workplace and social settings often crave admiration while manipulating situations to maintain their inflated self-image. Common traits include a lack of empathy. Narcissists will often show little to no concern for colleagues or friends' feelings, making it difficult to collaborate or maintain harmonious relationships with them. Any conversation topic or amount of attention given must be directed towards themselves, and they'll often attempt to steer it to do so. Another tactic is plain old manipulation. They use charm and deceit to gain power and admiration, often taking credit for others' works or achievements and undermining their colleagues and friends. A tangible way this manipulation presents itself at work is by an employee only putting in effort while being watched by management, or the possibility of recognition, praise, and external validation are present. Another tactic used is exaggerating achievements. Narcissists may frequently boast about their accomplishments and seek high office, status, or recognition. Upon the challenging of these false achievements, they will often resort to bullying to silence anyone who has actually challenged them. Name-calling, rumor spreading, and other distasteful tactics will be used to accomplish this. Another facet in the workplace and social setting would be poor teamwork and a lack of camaraderie. They struggle with teamwork, unable to accept criticism or work collaboratively. Their need to feel superior often leads to conflict with those around. Any social or work correction can be used as a platform to gain victimhood status and attention. Coworkers will find it nearly impossible to function around them, and friends will be constantly on edge due to the feeling of walking on eggshells. The narcissist must be perceived as the best person in any given group, and if they aren't, they're likely going to bully their way or attempt to present themselves as a victim in order to regain control and sympathy and attention. Another tactic is the devaluation of others. Narcissistic individuals will often criticize or belittle coworkers and friends in order to elevate their own sense of status and well-being. This can severely affect team morale while at work and negatively impact connection within social settings. The criticism they project towards those around them is not done with a tone of universal growth, but in a cutthroat me or you sort of mindset. They bring up others' weakness in a way that makes them feel and seem better or more qualified or reliable, what have you. Managing a narcissist at work requires clear boundaries, documentation of their behavior, and a structured approach to performance management. Working with a narcissist is endlessly exhausting and difficult. Discussion with management or HR centered around the problematic behaviors experienced or observed from the narcissist is the first step in creating reliable workplace boundaries around yourself in order to help protect you from their negative effect. In regards to the social settings, the narcissist will portray many of the same behaviors listed above, but oftentimes to a more rampant degree, as the risk of immediate repercussion goes down without the presence of managers and other supervisory roles, adding some of that extrinsic accountability. During this time, it's really up to the individual to set firm boundaries and be willing to enforce them, even to the degree of removing themselves from the social circles in which the narcissist is active in causing damage in order to preserve a sense of self. Narcissism in relationships. This portion merits its own dedicated section of the video due to the extreme effects that can be experienced from being in a relationship with a narcissist, as the consequences for troublesome behavior that are found in the workplace and to a lesser degree in social settings are oftentimes not present behind the closed doors of a relationship. This allows the narcissist to behave more and more problematically, oftentimes without fear of any tangible repercussion. Due to the egotistical nature of narcissism, an individual with NPD will seek constant attention, validation, and control while showing little to no regard for their partner's emotional well-being and autonomy. This plays out in a number of ways as the relationship with a narcissist progresses. First is a cycle of idealization and devaluation. The narcissist starts with charm and affection and admiration, that would be the idealization portion, placing their partner up on a pedestal. As time passes, they criticize and belittle them, which is the devaluation portion of the cycle, which can be very confusing for the partner. After this, they may even revert back to the idealization phase, continuing the cycle over and over again. Love bombing will occur in multiple forms to make the person feel special. Faked interests, doting language, flattery, overt consideration, and more will be presented, only for it to be retracted later, oftentimes with intangible reasons. Another thing to expect is excessive self-centeredness. Narcissists focus on being the center of any form of attention, often interrupting conversations to highlight their own achievements and opinions. This goes beyond the occasional passionate interruption that may happen from time to time and evolves into an assumed mindset and a predictable pattern. The narcissist will insist that their point of view or experience is the only one of validity and will implement a number of tactics to enforce that. Another facet is a constant need for admiration and validation. They crave external validation to fuel their self-esteem and expect special treatment, oftentimes making relationships one-sided. This will often be centered around external mechanisms that are presented as being out of anyone's control. Common manifestations of these mechanisms include vague illnesses or medical conditions, claimed mental diagnoses, social and psychological history, and the list goes on. Commonly mixed with grains of truth, the narcissist will utilize these mechanisms to garner attention from their partner in a way that paints them, the narcissist, out to be the victim if the constructed needs that have been presented are not met by the partner. Furthermore, if the partner does not or is not able to give all of the energy, time, and attention demanded by the narcissist, they will rely on these mechanisms to paint the partner out as a villain, therefore, again, achieving more attention and victimhood status for themselves. Another characteristic to expect is a lack of empathy and sensitivity to criticism. Narcissists struggle in general to connect emotionally with others and are highly sensitive to criticism, often reacting defensively. This will lead to overly inflamed arguments about rather inconsequential topics and an overall sense of anxiety and unease from the partner as they attempt to navigate the world again as if they are tiptoeing around on eggshells. All the while, the lack of mutual empathy leaves the partner feeling less connected and less understood, which primes them to be more effectively manipulated by the narcissist. On that note, manipulation and isolation are two other things to expect. In relationships, the narcissist will manipulate others through tactics like gaslighting and guilt tripping, and may isolate their partners from their support network in order to increase dependency. Attacking the partners' families, friends, and social circles, and insisting that they have been hurt by these people or that various groups are inherently bad is one of the more common approaches of the narcissist. This pushes the partner to cut off their social connections one by one until the narcissist has them all to themselves, again, easier to manipulate. Narcissistic relationships are often emotionally draining, leading to confusion, self-doubt, and a destabilized sense of worth. The partner will be plagued by questions of if they are enough or doing enough. Personal morals and identity will be thrown into question as the narcissist will accuse them of not caring or simply just being a bad person in some form or another. The partner can quickly find themselves trapped in a never-ending loop of psychological whiplash, constant stress over the other's well-being, and exhaustion from being regularly depleted of their life energy. This brings us to the next section, which is leaving the narcissist. With all of the negativity found in being in a relationship to a narcissist laid out very plainly, the seemingly easy question is, why don't they, the partners, just leave? In response to this, Jamie Cannon from Psychology Today put it very nicely in stating, when asked why people choose to stay in abusive relationships, individuals at the mercy of a narcissist would likely say it would be harder to leave. That almost universal truth for victims of narcissists, that walking away from them often comes with a lifetime of punishment, can be terrifying and a severe deterrent to splitting. And therein lies the rub. Leaving a relationship with a narcissist, while simple on the surface, is never as straightforward as it seems due to the problematic behavior that they can produce. However, understanding what is to come when leaving a narcissist can help the partners gain the needed strength to do so by highlighting the behaviors, showing them for what they are. One of the first things to remember when ending a relationship with a narcissist is that the narcissist will not let you leave peacefully. At first, they will likely pull out all of the stops, from more attempted love bombing to empty promises, even all the way to threatening a person's mental or physical well-being, all in an attempt to manipulate their partners into changing their mind. It's quintessential for the victims to stay strong during this stage because it's akin to their first step towards freedom. That being said, to believe that they would be able to leave and never hear from their abuser again is a mistaken concept. This is due to the fact that narcissists will try to contact their ex-partners. It doesn't matter if it's been 10 minutes, 10 months, or 10 years, a narcissist will try to stay in touch with their victim. They can contact them directly, show up at their places of work, at their home, at their friends' homes, and the list goes on. They will ask everyone who knows the victim how they're doing and where they're at. For victims, simply blocking a telephone number will not work. They will have to expect the narcissist's effort to connect with them and attempt to get ahead of it each and every time. While this sounds endlessly draining, it is also essential for survival and is simply an aspect of life that the victim will have to grow accustomed to walking. While the partner is attempting to move on and live a healthier life, the narcissist will tell everyone that they are actually the partner's victim. Since a narcissist has little to no remorse for their behaviors, if their partner does finally choose to fully leave them, they will immediately transform into a victim and repeat that loudly and often to anyone who will listen. They will also make it a goal to influence people who have a greater deal of effect in their victim's life. Mutual acquaintances, coworkers, and friends are oftentimes at the forefront of their manipulation tactics here. This is where the narcissistic smear campaign also comes into full swing. A narcissistic smear campaign is defined as a deliberate and calculated effort by a narcissist to tarnish someone else's reputation, credibility, or character. This tactic is often employed when a narcissist feels slighted or threatened, such as after a breakup or a perceived betrayal. The goal is to manipulate others' perception and isolate the target, their victim, from their support network, career, and more. They'll often do this by twisting narratives lightly and weaponizing moments of vulnerability from their partner so that they, the narcissist, are perceived as a victim and their partner is depicted as an egregious abuser or villain. While excruciating for the ex-partner to experience and endure, there is realistically little that can be done in retaliation, as this is honestly just simply another tactic being used by the narcissist to manipulate and gain control. To engage, address, or respond to the narcissist's accusations on any level only serves to legitimize their tirade and grants them power and control that they are seeking. Although it is extremely difficult, the healthiest and safest approach for the victim is to not engage at all, no matter what is said online, no matter who has been called or messaged, no matter to what extent the narcissist pushes the vitriol. Any form of engagement that the narcissist can detect only feeds into their delusion that they are so desperately attempting to present as fact. As time goes on, they will continually remind their partner that they are not responsible for any mistreatment that they have launched their way, and will even attempt to state that their victim is in fact responsible for the narcissistic abuse that the narcissist is presenting towards them. If this feels nonsensical and it becomes difficult to figure out what the victim has done to warrant this sort of behavior, look no further than them starting to exert their own free will. The victim chose to walk away from a bad situation, and they didn't have the narcissist's permission to do so. and that's all it takes. To add to the distasteful collection of tactics utilized by the narcissist during a breakup, split, or divorce, they will continue to punish their ex-partners as long as it makes them feel better or garners attention. The partner will never be forgiven for leaving their narcissist. The abuser will always believe the partner committed an unforgivable sin of standing up for themselves against their wishes, though it will likely be put in a disguise to seem more palatable to the outside observer. The final aspect to anticipate during a breakup with a narcissist is that they will never, ever say that they are sorry or wrong. In a narcissist's eyes, the victims are the exclusive problem. Anytime their partner disagrees with them or treats them differently than they expect and believe they have a right to be treated, it is perceived exclusively as a fault of the partner. A narcissist finds introspection and personal responsibility very difficult to grasp and will bend their own reality around to make excuses for feeling any consequences of their actions. While leaving a narcissist is indeed extremely scary and oftentimes very damaging, the improvements that can be found on the other side of the event are well worth it. The ability to rebuild individuality, self-sufficiency, confidence, and social support networks are only a few of the results of weathering that storm. Though it does take a decent amount of time to heal from, and the likelihood of lasting effects is notable, the freedom and joy that can be gained from that is worth the pain. Though friendships and other relationships may have to be rebuilt, being able to find that connection and happiness again makes it possible. And that is my first video in this short series covering the dark triad of personality traits. If you have any other thoughts or opinions or stories on the matter of narcissists and life with them, leave them in the comments below. If you have any other requests or suggestions for more videos like these or more analysis videos, again, feel free to leave them in the comments as well. If you liked the video and would like to spread more awareness to how narcissistic personality disorder genuinely presents itself in our lives, feel free to hit like, hit share, subscribe, hit the bell, do all those different things. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know it was a beefy one, but without further ado, that's all that I've got for today. My name is Logan, and you have been oh so awesome as you always are, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.